Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, robots and chickens, welcome to Interlinked.
Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
Today, we have back a dear friend of the pod, the crypto accounting czar himself, Mr. Tanner. What's up, my guy? We haven't forgot your title.
I forgot my title. Hey guys, how's it going? Happy to be here. Always happy to chill out with the guys and a chance to talk. I feel like podcasts are a good way to catch up.
Hell yeah. And we love it when you come on and hit us with that deep accounting knowledge, deep crypto knowledge. It's always a pleasure, sir. Also one of the top COOs in the world. Definitely in crypto, and I would vote for the world as well. Also, I am joined by the greatest co-host of all time, the judo grand champion of Earth. If there was a DBZ universal tournament, I vote for Sir Nicholas to represent us. He's the main man, the greatest co-host, Cryptoetheus. How are you today, sir?
Dude, I'm doing great. Always great to be introduced by someone who puts my mother to shame in gassing me up. Also, as always, for the record, I am a extreme novice at judo. So if anyone from the gym happens to see this, I do know I suck. So just throwing that out there. But all good. We were just like talking some market analysis. Why is crypto pumping today when all this sort of like doom and gloom is going on? I know we've got a lot of topics for today, but I think we open it up there with what's probably on the forefront of everybody's mind. It is Friday, April 11th, and we're looking at like 82,500 at BTC. Dollars
We're
taking it on
pamping
the
today.
chin. We're pamping. Spies catching up, but crypto's outperforming, the indices and gold. So we were talking about why that might be the case. Tanner, you're sharing some of your thoughts. Ben, you want to set the table with maybe what you think, and we can bounce off of that?
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about the US and China just seeing who can puff their chests up the most and hit each other with the highest amount of tariffs. My vote is we just agree on a tariff percentage. Either we go 69% tariffs or 420% tariffs and just call it a day. Have a good chuckle and move on with our lives. That's not my actual thought. That's for audience giggle purposes only. But yeah, so we have some crazy tariffs. Tanner, would love to get your thoughts on like, okay, Trump said no, he blinked on tariffs of everybody else, going hard at China. Seems like we just, we're butting heads here, US and China. It's inevitable, rise and fall of empires, all that good stuff. What are your thoughts?
It's an interesting one because you look at China over the past like 2 years, especially with the relevance of the BRIC countries. And there was a lot of talk over the last like couple of years about trying to not make the US dollar like the dominant currency, like the dominant worldwide currency, and the BRIC countries rising up and investing money into like the Chinese yuan or whatever it is to make it the dominant currency. But with a lot of this tariff talk and everything that's gone on and the arguments with China, like if you look at the US dollar just from like a macroeconomic perspective, like the US dollar hasn't really moved much. The US dollar is still remaining relatively solid against most other currencies, whereas the yuan against the US dollar right now, I think it's like the lowest it's been in what, 18 years or something crazy like that. And a lot of people have stopped fulfillments out of China. Large companies, Amazon wanted to stop fulfillments out of China. I don't know if it's a rumor, if it's real, if Apple like flew out like a bunch of iPhones with the thoughts of the prospective tariffs coming in, flew in a bunch of iPhones from China into the US to avoid potential tariffs because they have
Yeah,
like
I saw that.
set price. So I think all of that's having a negative effect on the country. And I think Trump's goal at the end of the day is probably to show that they need us more than they need us more than we need you kind of thing. And I think that's, even if I don't necessarily agree with the method of going about it, I think it's showing that just with relative dollar strength and relative like currency strength. Um, and hopefully, I hope this is all just one big bargaining chip and then we can just all go to Valhalla together and everyone can forget about it ever happening. But we'll see how the next little bit unfolds.
Well, I'm definitely hoping that too. I'd love to kind of paint a picture of what I'm hoping the master plan is and get you guys' reaction to it as well. Kind of in line with, with the thinking here of like, okay, we slap tariffs on, we use that as just an absolute chainsaw to demolish the markets. Everybody gets sad, everybody loses a bunch of money, prices go down, therefore inflation should go down because people have less money because they feel less wealthy because of markets. Everybody gets afraid, recession talk, everybody panics. Businesses have to lower prices, people have less money, less spending, prices go down, inflation goes down. As a result, because the market tanks, the Fed is forced to stimulate in the form of reducing interest rates. Interest rates go down. We have probably 9 or 10 trillion of debt, so we then refinance the debt on the back of the much lower interest rates. Then we lower tariffs, then we drop taxes like capital gains or income tax, and then we pass a big bill to invest in infrastructure, and we try to revitalize American manufacturing, American infrastructure, sewer, roads, energy, blah blah blah, and then it kind of kicks off the hopefully kicks off the next 10-year, 12-year, couple of decade, maybe one, hopefully 2 decade long next leg of that bull market with lower interest rates, refinance debt, less regulation, less taxes, a little bit of tariffs on other countries to make up for that deficit, slash government spending through Doge at the same time, and we're off to the races. That's what I'm hoping the master plan is, although those are very difficult things to accomplish. And, to not destroy everything in the meantime is also very difficult.
I mean, that's what when everyone was like, "So what do you think?" Well, I think I'm sad right now, but when you think about what maybe the plan is, obviously no one's come out and said that directly. So that kind of theory is something I've seen a lot of, especially online and people talking about it, and that being kind of the overwhelming. When you look at the positive side of the internet around these specific topics, that's the overwhelming theory. Obviously, there's the not so positive side of things, which takes the exact opposite approach of just this person is destroying the economy and blah 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 blah. And they take that approach. I prefer to be positive because I'd rather not be negative if I'm going to look at the world. So I'd rather be hopeful that there's some sort of master plan going on in the background, and that's where we're going to end up falling to. But I mean, the only true teller will be time. And after that, like we can predict, we can talk about it, we can speculate, we can make assumptions based on what continues to happen, but we'll know soon enough.
Those are wise words.
Absolutely.
What do you
Yeah,
think, Nick?
time will tell. It's an interesting, I mean, we are at like sort of max uncertainty right now. I always love to quote Darius Dale, where right now he's, been in the macro environment for a long time, and he's like the probable distributions have never been flatter. Like we could very likely go into like sort of like a bullish dynamic if things play out well. Like a recession, at least a technical recession, is like very much on the table if this ends up hitting the growth tape. You've got this interesting game of brinksmanship going on internationally, but you also have a huge game of brinksmanship happening domestically, which is it really seems like Trump is trying to force Powell's hand. And at the Federal Reserve, you've got a dual mandate, which is inflation as well as unemployment. You've got Doge taking a hatchet to a lot of government jobs, which is the biggest employer in the United States. So that's going to flow through, even if it's just a temporary blip and those people get absorbed by the regular economy. That will put a couple of pretty scary unemployment numbers on the tape, at least in the short term. And then while the tariffs themselves are, of course, inflationary as a one-time sort of like shock, and if they retaliate and yada, 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 that can compound. But really, like the interesting thing is that, oh, I've completely lost my thought. Literally, it just went,
So Doge comes in, takes a whack at the unemployment, dual
oh,
mandate of the Fed.
inflation. Yes, thank you, Ben. And on the
Mhm.
inflation side, though, recessions are super anti-inflationary because everybody gets super scared. Consumer confidence we just saw just hit all-time lows. And so there's a lot of people that go, yeah, you know what? Maybe I don't need that new car. Maybe it's not the best time to buy a house when everything's like blowing up. Maybe I don't need to go and run out and get a PS5 Pro. My PlayStation's okay. And all of that takes a bit of a hatchet to inflation. So I do think
Hmm.
there's this internal game. Oh, let's go. I opt Is that the Pro or the PS5?
It's a slim. I like travel a lot, so I like to have it being able to just fit my backpack.
Oh yeah,
For
right
the
in the
for the
laptop
audio
container.
only, for the audio only, our wonderful guest Sir Tanner here just very gently lifted up his gaming console into the frame and then very gently, slowly moved it back down as we were talking about
Oh, I
that. It
love it.
was kind of awesome.
Sony reach out for sponsorship opportunities. Big PlayStation players here at Interlinked.
That's
Um,
right.
but I'll wrap it up on a little bit of like a bullish tone, which is while China's yuan has been rapidly devalued, the dollar versus the euro and a bunch of the European currencies has been taking it on the chin. So if you look at the euro USD chart right now, it looks a bit like a crypto chart. So it is 17% up on
Can
the
you share
year
that?
to
Can you
date.
share that?
Oh
Yeah, no
God.
Let's get
problem.
a let's get a visual onto the pod here. And I have a
Yeah,
point to
no
make also
problem.
on these currencies too that I think a lot of people are either unaware of or forgetting the power of. So I'm very interested in after seeing this chart making a comment here. Actually, while before as we're pulling this up, I think what a lot of people maybe either don't realize or forget is that our I think he's Secretary of the Treasury now, Scott Bessent. The dude literally was one of the I think he was the analyst that figured out the play working with Druckenmiller and Soros to break the back of the Bank of England. They did the big play against England all those years ago. So this man is a financial wizard and he understands how to go attack weak currencies. So there might be a play there where they're like, yeah, we have these tariffs and stuff, but like, if you try to fuck with the dollar too much, we have this absolute fucking assassin here that we will sick on your ass to mess with your currency. I don't know if that's going down, but they're probably all thinking, oh my God, we don't want to fuck with Besant because this dude's an actual financial destroyer of souls. So I just want to put that out there too as we're looking at this chart.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember when I
he's
went to the UK in 2021 or 2022, the Canadian dollar, I'm Canadian, so I'm gonna be a loser here. But the Canadian dollar to the GBP was like I got it, it was like 1.46 or something at its lowest. And right now it's like 1.9, like 1.8 something.
Wow.
yeah, so if you
Huge.
look at can you see this euro chart?
Yeah,
1.82.
we see
Yeah.
EUR over USD.
Yeah, so that's the euro USD. So as you can see here, like right when this like tariff stuff started going like mainstream, like it just took off like sort of like vertically. You can see
Can you
that
explain it though? Like, does this mean the euro is strengthening versus the dollar?
that's
Yes.
exactly what this means.
Okay.
So if you went to France last month, those bills hitting your Amex would be a whole lot cheaper than they would be if you went today, is what that boils down to. So you're
Yeah.
And
getting
why?
less euros to the dollar. So here's the sort of like background that you kind of got to go back to COVID. So how we reacted to COVID versus the rest of the world was like very different. We turned on an unprecedented amount of money printing to sort of make an attempt to deal with the wild wealth disparity that we had in the country at the time, just airdrop people money. Obviously, that didn't end up working because most of those people are either degens and threw that into asset markets or just spent that on goods. And it all just ended up getting accumulated up at the top. But because we busted out the fire hose when everyone else busted out the squirt gun, there was an extreme period of US exceptionalism over the last, I mean, even longer than this, but certainly since COVID. And what that means is the rest of the world was holding an unprecedented and still holds an unprecedented amount of US assets that are denominated in dollars. And so now that it looks like that exceptionalism might turn, people who are in
Mm,
super, super high gains relative to where we were back in 2021 are going to take their ball and go home. and they have the ability to do
Mm.
that. The other reason why our bonds are taking it on the chin is there's blood in the water, and people smell that, hey, because we were so aggressive in our printing and our fiscal deficits through COVID, we actually have a lot less wiggle room to print our way out than other countries do. So that's part of the reason that that is like happening, that dynamic. And you're seeing it in the gold market as well, where gold year to date is obviously on a rocket ship, 20% gain, pretty close to the euro as well. But really, how this comes and relates to our precious coins is that potentially Bitcoin could catch this sort of wave as well, as when there are these huge international issues, people are going to look for places to put store of value. You've got, as you pointed out, Tanner, you've got the yuan also depreciating. So if you've got the dollar taking it on the chin versus everything but the yuan, you've got the yuan depreciating. People are starting to reach for, okay, for instance, the year to date, if you just, sidestep this whole market crash, you still lost 7% versus a basket of currencies just staying in the dollar versus, being up 20% in like gold. So people are starting to reach for those store of values. And my hope, and what we might be seeing today is that Bitcoin, catches some of that as well.
Have you built into the theory of like China decriminalizing Bitcoin or whatever it is, decriminalizing crypto, and then with all these tariff situations and using Bitcoin for trade, and then the access to like whatever billion people in China being able to now access Bitcoin in a non-convoluted manner, and then that itself rising up the price of Bitcoin?
Well,
I think
two
that's
two
very on the
comments on that.
table.
Two comments on that real quick, and then I want to hear your full thought, Nick. Is one, as we're showing gold up 20% on the year, Peter Schiff's having a fucking field day. He just loves that. I mean, I've never seen somebody dance on a grave more than this motherfucker, so gotta love that piece of comedy. But also, I read at least, a couple of news pieces where BRICS countries were actually using Bitcoin to settle and trade.
Yeah,
So that could be some foreshadowing that might exactly happen.
I think that was the article that was the basis of my thought. I saw similar ones.
Yeah, I saw the same one. I think that's very like on the table. I mean, as many people have pointed out, there's no tariffs on. There are two things that avoided tariffs. Gold, which was being heavily speculated on. Everyone was sort of tracking on X how like all this gold was being moved all around the world by central banks. That's because other countries have an enormous amount of gold sitting at the Federal Reserve. And there was that worry of like, hey, are we going to have to pay tariffs when we take this gold from the US back to our country? And Germany, for instance, has a shit ton of gold sitting there. Um, and so there was a lot of like fear on that gold would be included in the tariffs. There was less fear that Bitcoin would be included. But I think for those reasons, gold and Bitcoin are going to be looked at as more of a potential use for trade. And obviously, Bitcoin has a huge advantage of the fact that like gold weighs a shit ton. If you want to carry one Bitcoin worth of gold on a plane in the US, you're probably going to get stopped, and very likely that gold's going to get seized.
I mean, didn't you see what's that TV show, the Spanish TV show where they rob banks? Casa de Papel?
No, that
I've
wasn't on
never
my
seen that.
radar.
Oh, wait, it's Money Heist. It's Money Heist in English. You guys never see Money Heist?
No.
No, I'm adding it to my list.
But Money Heist, it's really good. It's like 3 seasons, but like the emphasis of each season, it's based in always in Spain, I think somewhere. And you have all these people from all over the world, and they all have code names that are on the basis of different countries. And essentially there's the professor who's kind of like the organizer of all of it, and then he has all those like little underlings, and he organizes this massive plan to like essentially rob banks or rob, I think it's always a bank. And the last season they rob like the Spanish gold reserve. And they have this
Wow.
whole plan to be able to do this. And it always like the cops come and there's like negotiation, and they have like these backdoor deals, and there's always like it's a very interesting show with a really good storyline. I think it finished in like 2020 something, but it's either you can watch it in Spanish or you can watch it English dubbed. But if you're looking for a good show that has like a really interesting storyline, watch Money Heist or Casa de Papel.
On the
I'll check
list.
it out. Yeah, I got to take a break from watching nothing but One Piece to get some cultural diversity in my
I
viewing
thought
anyway.
everyone knew that show. It's like the show where they have like they're wearing like the red jumpsuits with like the masks.
Damn, I don't know. Somehow, dude, man, we're
I missed
slacking.
it.
No
I'm
culture
so
here
out
at
of touch.
Interlinked.
Yeah, I'm so out of touch, dude.
Um, how have you guys not seen this? Can I share my screen?
Yeah, let me give you
Please.
permission real quick. You're good.
Okay, this one, and I'll share the screen. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
You guys have
Sweet.
never seen this?
I
No.
haven't. I would have thought if you had just showed me that, if I saw this on Twitter, I would have thought this was an AI knockoff on Squid Games.
No, this came out before. This came out before Squid Games. But,
Oh,
like
I
not,
wonder if they
Rotten
stole the
Tomatoes, I'm
jumpsuits.
pointing, but like Rotten Tomatoes is 94%.
Damn.
Boom.
And like these actors, like you've seen them in other shows. Like they're in like if you ever watch, there's a lot of Spanish stuff on Netflix, but like a lot of these actors are pretty like prominent across those different. But yeah, see all their names are like The Professor, Tokyo, Berlin, Nairobi, Rio. Like they're all like countries, Helsinki,
Denver.
Denver. But
Hey yo.
they're it's cool. If you're looking for a show to watch and like it has a couple of seasons and it's all out. Do yourself a favor and watch thing and don't judge me by the amount of tabs I have open, please.
Dude,
Dude,
I
I
might have you beat.
I found that intelligence correlates with number of tabs. More tabs, smarter human. So maybe just you know,
It's
maybe
all
just
about
keep
the
that
tab.
into account.
Yeah,
So
I think on each of
we know
my
you're a big brain.
because I have like I've obviously have like six different Googles that I have my personal Google, I have like for like one company, one for another company, and then I have like a few others for random things, like random emails that I'll have. Like I'll have like a separate Google just for like the legal email so I don't get it jumbled up and everything else. So I have a separate Google for like whatever accounts receivable so I can do all the accounting stuff there. So I know I have to like have it in my single thing, but I probably have close to like across everything almost 50 to 100 tabs open at any time.
Oh, I'm in the same boat. I
Boom.
even have multiple search browse, like I've got Chrome, Brave, and Safari, and I have those split up by different companies. Or when I was doing the taxes for like Interlinked LLCs and my personal, I had them on like Coinleys on like all the different things. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait till this is all over and I can close these out.
It's so bad. I think I break my computer one. I feel like if I don't restart my computer every so often because of the amount of like RAM that they have to access to keep everything open all at once, it has a fit.
Oh, I bring it up at Apple every time I get a laptop. I'm like, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm not doing much like heavy RAM intensive stuff, but I need to be able to have at least 100 tabs open. So I need that much RAM.
Want the new Mac that has like the matte screen where you can like be in the sunlight and whatever, it doesn't like glare off of the screen. And I'm going to Europe this summer, so I was like, if I'm gonna be working outside, I need like a matte screen so I don't get that ugly. Like you see
Gotta have
every
it.
speck of dust on your screen.
Oh, that's the
Hmm.
worst.
You gotta
Well, I
have it.
think
Yeah, I have like
as
four monitors, so I try to have like all the messaging things and all the like all the messaging things set up simultaneously, and then whatever the main task is, and then one shift away, because I also use Mac, like one shift away, all the things that are most likely to be correlated with that particular group of messaging things, and then you gotta like hit a thing, tab over, and I'm like, man, deep work is not happening on this side of the on this side of the screen. I'm in full manager mode, just flying left and right. But as you guys know, I reply super quickly, so that's how that
the
happens.
quickest in the game, the omnipotent level networker that is Ben in every DM with
Let's
everybody
go.
everywhere.
Let's
But as
go.
we were but as we were discussing like sort of, a bunch of our different takes on the overall market, I think the one thing that you can be certain about is the level of uncertainty that's on the tape right now. And to bring it back to Altura, bring it back to like Web3, like what are you guys doing at Altura? And as we discussed before we started recording, like you guys have been through the FTX crash, all sort of the craziness since like 2021. You guys are not new to very, very uncertain waters. So what are some of the things that you're doing at Altura? in this time of like super uncertainty, and maybe just offer some, advice or some of your takeaways from operating in certain very uncertain times.
If you feel like you're in uncertain times, don't wait too long to act. I think that's the number one piece of advice. If you feel like the ship is sinking, don't add more weight to the ship. Like start getting rid of things where you can and making smart decisions, because you don't help anyone by like not being able to float. If you can find a way to float, find a way to float, hold on to something, hold on to a dinghy, work with the team that you have. And obviously if you have like a leadership team, or you have kind of like an executive team that can run things, and you need to make those decisions, make them quickly. It's never fun. Like being in situations where you see your treasury dwindling and you're like, I don't know if we're gonna have like the runway to cover this amount of burn monthly over the next whatever 3 to 6 months. Don't wait till the 6 month point to be like, shit, I I can't do it again. I can't do next month. So as harmful or as hurtful as it can be to have to make some of those decisions as like a business owner, and as someone who you have a community, you have your team obviously, and then you have all these aspects, especially in Web3, that go beyond just like a regular startup. You need to make the right decisions and hard calls, and it's not always like people don't understand it. I think a lot of community looks at like a token that has like a whatever market cap, and they're like, oh, you must have infinite money. You must have like whatever, this, that, the other. But like obviously people who are in the space realize that's not true. Markets are only so liquid. You can only have so much available cash at any point in time. And you can manage your treasury really well and avoid situations like that as much as possible. But you need to play smart and huddle down with a small agile team when shit gets tough, and use that team to move mountains, because you'd be surprised how much a small team can do when there's a lot of pressure on you to do or die kind of situation. And I think a lot of companies, a lot of big games, and like I was talking to executives from like other massive gaming companies, and kind of the overall sentiment is like games that we would have like begged for like a year ago that we ended up landing over the past like 6 months. They only have like 3 to 5, maybe 6 months of runway left. And so if the market doesn't turn around, like a lot of these games that could have been market leaders, or maybe they over bloated themselves with developers or marketing or KOLs or whatever it was, they don't have the runway left to maybe make it to the next leg up. And it's awful because you want to see it, but it's also maybe it's kind of necessary to like trim as much of the fat as possible, because I think people got overexcited and didn't plan for a downside after kind of what happened, obviously November, December, January high times. People didn't plan for, what was it, the biggest liquidation event in crypto history in at the end of January there, when it was like almost FTX and Luna combined in total liquidation. So no one thought that was going to happen. And then since then, it's kind of just been a downward slope, being backed off by everything with tariffs and everything on that too. So know your team, know what you're spending, and know when it's time to cut your spending. And if you don't do that, I'd rather be here in 6 months with a couple bullet wounds and a couple sewn up like parts of my body than just not be here at all.
Now a word from our sponsors.
What's up, crypto gamers? Shout out to our sponsor, Myria. Myria is revolutionizing Ethereum-based gaming with its powerful L2 scaling solution. Think zero gas fees, instant transactions, free NFT minting, and more. Myria offers a suite of tools that are tailor-built for game development, including game-specific SDKs, a spec'd-out marketplace, Web3 spiked leaderboards, new AI super tools, and more. All this fueled by a fleet of player-run nodes that are a breeze to operate and pump out daily rewards for supporting the ecosystem. Plus, check out Meta Rush, the Battle Royale obstacle runner by Myria Studios, dropping very, very soon.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I think a big key there is like people see 800 trillion market cap and they're like, you guys have infinite money. But in order to realize that infinite money, you have to sell something, which hurts the chart. And there's only so much liquidity. And then everybody else gets pissed at you. And then there's like there are a lot of dynamics at play, and like the more you sell, the less the rest of it's worth. So
Yeah.
it's like it's there's a lot of things I don't think people really think through, and they're like, oh yeah, and then they're always like, I think they always hit you up, and they're like, oh yeah, you guys have like 50 mil to toss to this idea that I'm bringing to you right now. Why don't you just just ACH that over to me real quick this afternoon, buddy, and let's just let's go to town.
Yeah, I had to, oh man, we had a community member we actually had to like remove from the community because he has like a history of like getting a little bit intoxicated and then getting in like Discord chats. And like usually it's fine, like he's harmless, but he started like aggressively going at team members, aggressively going at other community members, and aggressively like saying things. And then we're like, fuck, we gave him like 3 warnings. We're like, if you don't stop, like we're gonna have like you can't like call someone an Esler and then call someone this. Like you can't like you might be frustrated right now, but your frustration doesn't give you an infinite pass to just be an asshole in our chats. And because it looks bad on us too, with partners and stuff as well, to have that like sort of sentiment. So we told him and then he just kept going and then we had to remove him from the chat, sadly. And he's been around since like 2021, but it's the second time. Like he got removed once because he did it, and then we were like, "Hey, you can come back, but you can't talk like that because we like whatever." And he thinks it's funny because he genuinely believes that like it was his thoughts that triggered a bunch of things. But he's like, "I was the first person to say this," and I was like, "Man," I was like, "We've been planning that for like months." And, and then he tried to take credit for a bunch of things, and now he's like, "You need to hire like an AI wizard." And I was like, do you have $500,000 a year to put in someone who's specializes in AI at the moment? Because I don't. Like that's a big salary. Um, and it's like we have like our team and we have our team that understands AI. Like we have our head of engineering Abdullah who's strong. Like maybe he's not fucking OpenAI like executive team or like CTO at OpenAI. Like he doesn't have that level of knowledge, but he's extremely knowledgeable and we're able to work off of what we have and build out our tool set and we have the talent and the ability to do that. But what people want to see is like a big flashy name, but people don't realize what that big flashy name means in terms of pain.
Yeah, I wish there was like a token, and if someone has the ability to create this, like I will get a huge kick out of it, which is like the crash out coin, which is in these times of like bearishness, you had everybody from like community members to employees from companies to like Jamie Dimon like crashing out on X, like being like, yeah, like it's almost like a counter cyclical like sort of like trend thing where you could follow like crash out coin and see how many people are just like losing their shit because it's a pressure cooker. And I forget if we were recording when you said this, but really the mismatch between everyone's assumptions for the next like 3 to 6 months and what reality brought, like it's really hard on people's psychology to like merge their expectations with the present reality. And if that's a big spread between those two, it can really hit people's psychology.
Yeah.
That's your happiness. That spread is your happiness level. That's why Charlie Munger always says the key to happiness is low expectations. So if you expect everything, if you have low expectations for everything, if they meet your expectations, oh, okay. If it was even marginally better than your expectations, you're happy. The surplus of your expectations and reality, if reality is greater than your expectations, that's your level of happiness. So if you set your expectations high and then reality is anywhere under those, then all of this is your anti-happiness. So just lower your expectations, and that doesn't mean lower your how hard you're pushing or lower your belief in your ability to accomplish or lower your goals, but like you could be moving at something and have high accountability, high agency, and still have low expectations so that regardless of what happens, your happiness is still fine. I think it's a balance beam people kind of aren't really able to reconcile, but I found it to be very, very peaceful, and peace of mind is enabled when you approach the life with that strategy.
No, I agree. I think the most high strung people are the people that like they'll set an expectation. If it doesn't hit that exact thing, they're like they can't they have an inability to equate the possibility of outside influences affecting things that they believed were going to happen. And then it's like you have to walk them back and be like, we said this at this point, but at this point in time, this was the reality, and reality has changed. I can control a lot of things. I can't control a 145% tariff on China. Like I don't I have a lot I have friends. I don't got those friends.
I thought you had a red phone where you could just pick it up and hit up the Donald and make those sorts of calls, but maybe you just don't want to disclose that. Maybe you're keeping that in the.
Actually in the shape of a 9 iron, and it's from
I know, just tell Xi Jinping and Trump to chill a little bit. They're hurting our bags.
Yeah. Just have them thumb wrestle and get over it. Figure it out.
exactly.
I'd
Cool.
love to get some updates on what Altura was building over since the last time we had you on the pod. I think it's been a good, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so since the last time that we connected. So what are some,
When do we record? I'm trying to remember.
let's see.
I think it was December-ish,
Was it
actually.
post-Trump victory or pre-Trump victory?
Pre-T.
Pre-Trump victory, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so then it would have been maybe October.
Yeah, I'll get us an answer.
I think at the earliest. I'm thinking it was probably more December-ish, if I had to guess. Or maybe that was the first episode. Maybe the first episode was 2 Decembers ago. Then we
Maybe.
brought you on again October-ish. I think you guys were probably right, actually. I
Yeah,
think I'm
9 months is what I'm showing.
Okay, yeah. So I think might have been September, October. So I guess since then a lot has happened. Because obviously since then we partnered with Immutable. We built out a marketplace for Immutable as well as a custom marketplace for Immutable, and we've worked with some of their bigger games. We are a big part of Raven Quest right now, and a few other the larger games on Immutable, a few more coming that I don't think have been announced yet, so I can't say them. But there's a bunch of other games from Immutable that are being fed through us. And we have a really good working relationship with their team at the moment. We also announced the beginning of Altura Intelligence, which the first product for launched is in beta right now. If you go and sign up, you can get a code, an access code to try it out on the Altura in our tools on Altura right now to try out the our asset creation, which creates 3D assets, which a bunch of community members have been like playing with and playing around with and having a good time with, just being able to see kind of what assets they can make in completely 3D rendered assets. I believe the next phase of it will be the NPCs, NPC characters, NPC Plus, where I believe we're on track to finish that before the end of Q2, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I believe obviously certain market situations might delay that a bit at the moment just because of the engineering hours that go into it. But we're doing NPC Plus, which is essentially an NPC character, which in the easy part of it will just be like an NPC character that uses AI to be able to have conversations with characters that are unique. And then also there's the learning side of it where the AI will be able to be an NPC character and then learn from the way that you battle and the way that you perform in a certain game, and then adjust their performance on the base of that to create a more difficult, active battlefield or situation for the player. And I believe that's on the way, are getting close to completion. I'm not sure how much further. I have to touch base this at our team call this week to figure out where that stands at the moment. But that will be the next phase of it. And yeah, we're pushing forward with that. We have a big video. We actually did like a huge production for Altura Intelligence. Like we rented out a theater. We shot like a 3 to 5 minute commercial, like Apple kind of like commercial for Altura Intelligence that's being edited at the moment, and that's gonna be posted probably when the market is a little bit stronger. We don't want to post it kind of in and have it do nothing, but we put a lot of time and effort into building that, working with a production company. I don't know if you know much about production. We use like everything. We had red cameras, we had everything to make it like a really high quality experience. So we're looking forward to putting that out as well. And then on top of that, we just got a lot of cool partnerships that we're working on in the background right now with some pretty massive companies, a couple payment companies that we're kind of in the talks of becoming kind of the primary marketplace, primary infrastructure for, but going to different chains. And you maybe over the next 6 to 12 months, ideally you see Altura everywhere on more than just EVM chains. I'd love to see us on Polkadot and Solana and Cardano and Near Protocol and all these different um, exchanges that don't run on the classic EVM or uh, Solidity, the language that we need to kind of create a bespoke or kind of clone of the company for those specific protocols. So that's also something that we want to work on. And then obviously continuing on the token front, continuing growing, continue more exchanges, which right now is kind of on hold with most exchanges aren't really listing at the moment, just transparently. Most of them are kind of like on a hiatus until the market, they understand what's happening in the market because any token that launches right now anywhere is any TGE that happens right now is not really doing much. They're not seeing much success. So, and that's how all these exchanges are making a lot of it makes money off the TGE and the initial trades that happen there, whether it's selling or it's buying because they're making money on those fees. So there's that side of things as well. And yeah, Altura is just continuing to grow our partnership base, continue to innovate and put out new products and really take the next 3 months to focus on building as much as we can while the market kind of lulls so that when the market turns around again, we have something to show for it.
Can I make a request of a feature on the marketplace?
Sure.
I would love to have it to where people could interact with Altura AI or ALU AI, whatever we're calling it, and the intelligence, and people can haggle with the marketplace itself, kind of like a shopkeeper. And here's why. Here's why. Um, People will let you know with their wallets what an acceptable market price is for a particular good. A huge issue with businesses is that they have no fucking clue how to price their wares. They don't know what they should be selling for. In a bid ask, ideally you let people, kind of come to that uh they come to that number. But if you're, so in an open marketplace, that kind of resolves itself over time. But if you're a game and you're selling things that maybe there is an infinite supply, like, a skin that's not an NFT or something like that, like a big issue is trying to determine what the appropriate market pricing is. Or if they're like, oh, well, we want to figure out how do we price this initially or whatever it is. So like if there's not that bid ask component, to be able to like let players volunteer prices to a shop, to like a virtual shopkeeper, you could probably move a lot more merchandise that way, and I think that would help unlock a lot of volume that would otherwise be locked behind, oh, maybe you missed it by 2 percentage points of what the acceptable price would be.
Yeah. I I think that's something that makes a lot of sense. I'll bring it up in the call this week. I'll let them know. We have
Excellent.
a lot of things, but there's definitely always room to add more, and I think that's an interesting approach. It could be a good way to collect data as well for a lot of games in a unique manner that they're looking for that data collection stuff. Oh yeah, we also just it makes me remember of peer-to-peer talking. We just partnered with a company called Cryptalk as well to do it's like a decentralized messaging protocol to be able to send peer-to-peer messages, and we're going to integrate that into the toolkit to be able for games to. I think the big use case we saw for games is to be able to send out to wallets personalized messages about maybe certain events that are going on, maybe certain drops, so that games can reach their core users that have wallets either associated with the game or have own NFTs or own whatever it is associated with that company so that they're aware of anything that's happening or any special game things that are going on.
Wait a second. Similar idea. That should allow people on a marketplace to communicate, because they may say you're currently priced at 50 ETH, but I want to pay 49 ETH, and they should be able to shoot that message over. And then if they say, okay, sure, that the AI should be able to like move that, like decrease the spread. You know what I'm saying? Like that could be a haggling, peer to peer haggling too, not just one to many from publisher to user.
Yeah, I think once there's availability for us to kind of integrate the, because right now their front end is held solely on their own platform. So it would be like my favorite part of crypto when you have to leave another platform to go to another. But until kind of
Yeah.
spot where we can integrate their back end into our front end. I think that makes that possible to have that peer, like wallet to wallet communication within a kind of localized setting versus having to go to another service in order to receive said information.
Dude, hit him with a Dark Kermit meme. It'll work.
The
Gets
meme
the job
lord.
done, ladies and gents.
No doubt. I have seen Ben bring people back from the dead in sort of leads with memes. It's the Lazarus like meme effect. But not to linger on that for too long. As we approach the top of the hour, there was one thing I wanted to touch upon, which was you mentioned Raven Quest and how you guys had done the big partnership with like IMX. There's a huge sort of subculture in Neo Tokyo where there's been a ton of people playing Raven Quest. So
Yeah.
Atomic Sushi's running, I believe, our guild. Shout out to B Crumbs, who's been hosting some of the NT Plays, Raven Quest events. So I know there's a lot of like love for Raven Quest in the community and in the audience. So I'd love to like be able to describe or get a better understanding of some of the tools from Altura that were implemented for Raven Quest, sort of to drive home to the audience like how those tools were used.
Yeah, so right now, because there's IMX, so IMX, the tools that we use with IMX are solely just the marketplace as well as the white label marketplace. And then we're also working on some new sauce right now with them as well to help improve the game flow play in terms of maybe a marketplace that's more integrated into the game. That's on the docket at the moment. But that the most part, the relationship between us and them is we work together. We'll bring them in. So we brought Raven Quest into our community, did like game jams, where we have like our people play the games on live streams and get them involved in that as well. And then we've also they're fully integrated into the Altura marketplace on Immutable, and their white label marketplace, custom white label marketplace for Raven Quest, where it's just their own collections as well as the unique visual that matches kind of their website aesthetic. So that's the soul of like from a technical standpoint, and then just from a non-technical standpoint, just working together and helping each other grow, making sure that all of their stuff is hitting the right audiences and they're getting a chance to show off their game to as many people as possible.
And then piggybacking off of that, what do you think of, obviously in your position, you get to talk to many different game studios, many different games. So what are your thoughts about like sort of the fit between Web3 and these MMORPGs?
I think if done right and the games continue, like the new games that come out continue on the same vertical that they're going on now, I think a niche is going to be found, and with a few improvements on the infrastructure side to make adding the Web3 side in more part of the game and less kind of thought about as like, oh, this is a Web3 game. I think the more that we're going to be able to see these games succeed. And I think we're on the right. I think with games like Raven Quest, we're definitely hitting the right notes. And it's just going to be a matter of letting that continue to grow and making changes on the basis of market needs and fostering successes like Raven Quest to be able to create more versions of that, more success stories, and using that as kind of a catalyst for saying, look what we can do if we do it right.
Do you think it just takes one game to hit mainstream adoption for the whole industry to pop?
It's tough. I think it's a combination of mainstream adoption because you look at games that had somewhat mainstream attention and then they ended up not succeeding past that mainstream attention because of maybe the playability. So I think it has to be a combination of you getting that attention, but then being, I think, the retention side of it. If you can show long-term retention on a game, I think that's going to be helpful for the industry as a whole. But like blips on the radar are forgotten about rather quick, and I think that's shown in recency with marketing dollars have gone towards certain games and them not maintaining that or being able to maintain that long term.
Your diplomat is showing, my friend.
Yeah,
Your inner diplomacy.
to put it very bluntly, none of my IRL friends are still playing off the grid.
Got him. Got him.
Because
not
obviously
not you. Got them. Got them.
of course, they were the case. I mean, just to call a spade, I mean, they were the case study of sort of like huge marketing deployment, sending 5090s to a bunch of streamers. And at this point, the only people that I know who still play off the grid, which is still a sick game, don't get me wrong, is the Web3 people who are still like, that's in their core, sort of like gaming.
Yeah.
Do you think if they like, you know, do you think when the next round of the bull hits, please, that people will come back and they'll be like, oh, I could earn these tokens, and these tokens are now super valuable, and holy cow, look at this. Like, is that play to earn on steroids? Does play to earn come and just eat everybody's lunch again when more money's coming in than play to earn can dish out?
I hope not, because I don't think that's sustainable. I think it's going to run into the same issues. I hope
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it might, because people are innately want to find ways to make money. And I don't think that degeneracy is ever going to disappear. But I hope that the meta doesn't become that. I think that will exist in certain situations, but I hope the meta just becomes super high quality games that focus on the technology and the ability of ownership in game and being able to do things that you can't do in a traditional game. And that spreads across to larger platforms. Like, from the conversations that I've been having with people, and from what I've kind of gathered thus far, is the technology behind Web3 is starting to gain traction with a lot of these larger uh, gaming companies and consoles and everything. They're kind of starting to think about how they can do it. So I just think, for the most part, a lot of us are just really early in something that, like, probably 10 years from now is going to be very normal. We're going to look back and we'll be able to tell people, oh, when I started working, I remember when no one played this game, or no one would play these games because of XYZ. And I'm sure a lot of niches in gaming have had those moments, and people have kind of been on the ground floor of it. And we've just been lucky or unlucky to be at the very beginning of what I believe will be a very successful technology as we move forward.
From your lips to the almighty crypto god's ears, my friend. Guys, this has been an incredible episode. Tanner, dear friend of the pod, welcome back anytime. Appreciate you coming, spitting some knowledge. And of course, you are the unanimously voted crypto accounting czar and one of the great leaders of our space. So thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate you, brother.
Always appreciate being here. I love talking with you guys. It's easy. Was that an hour? That felt like 20 minutes.
Hell yeah, that's what we aim for. Always appreciate you coming on, Tanner. This has been Neo Tokyo's official podcast, Interlinked, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Take care, everyone.
Tokyo.